What's going on, YouTube? I'm AJ, and this is my gun review. Today we're going to be covering the Springfield Prodigy. Now, I know I'm a little late to the party on this one. The Prodigy's been around for a while. I've shot several of them over the years, but I figured since we're doing a channel, since we're trying to create a large catalog of 2011 reviews, we got to have a Prodigy in here. So, this is my personal Prodigy. This one is the commander length, so 4¼ inch barrel, steel frame, polymer grip module, and this one is going to wind up being a base for a custom build I'm going to have done. Now, the Prodigy is an interesting addition to the marketplace, and we're going to cover that more in depth in the tabletop portion, as well as shooting final thoughts. But where it did change the game is it made the 2011 more accessible to more people. As many of us have already figured out, the 2011 tends to be the gold standard as far as shooting performance platform. Unfortunately, the price tag, as far as admission goes, has always been pretty steep. The Prodigy changed that, giving you, at least now, a functional, fairly reliable entry point into that marketplace. Whereas I certainly don't view it as a be-all, end-all option. I view it as a great starting point and probably the best base gun for a custom build that you can presently buy. So, without further ado, let's get in the tabletop portion, take a closer look at what you're actually getting for your money with Springfield Prodigy. All right, so commander length Springfield Prodigy. So we have 4¼ inch bull barrel, full length guide rod. The serrations on the Prodigy are actually very nice. They're nice and deep and sharp, provide very good traction, so I like those. The frame, just shy of full length. It has this butler cut. The frame is the same width as the slide. Where that becomes handy is if you're getting holsters made for most custom 1911s or 2011s, get ones designed for a Prodigy, as most customs also have the frame the same width as the slide. The staccato ones have an inset frame and usually some type of filler in the holster, which keeps most of the other 2011s from fitting in them. Moving back to the optic plate, this is the Agency AOS. Presently mounted as a 407K, so I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second. I didn't mount this optic on there, the previous owner did, and I absolutely hate it when people use these micro red dots on top of full-size 2011s. You have a high-performance gun with now a tiny little window, and they do it because the optic itself fits better with the sides of the slide. So you're giving yourself, presumably, a little nicer aesthetic look or the ability to flush mount an optic, and for that you're trading performance, which is just dumb. So don't do that. I'm getting rid of it. I'll put a full-size 507 or 508 on here. Overall, the plate system itself is okay. The backup iron sight and backup sights as a whole, fairly well done. I need to cut the fiber optic out of this one. The mount is fairly low, though I've read a lot of complaints of the screws loosening on the plate itself with Agency's setup. So that's something I'll be paying attention to moving forward. Not a great sign for Springfield. Moving down to the slide stop, I really like how there's not only a relief cut underneath the slide stop paddle, but it's scooped inwards, giving you a ton of room underneath of that. Now, for the most part, that would make up from an otherwise not so great slide stop design, traditional government design, which small paddle on top and rounded the wrong way on the bottom, which is now taking up space. Also, it seems the way the detent is set up has made it difficult to manipulate. So, again, great undercut, pretty trash execution of the paddle. Something from 10.8 would make this much better. The thumb safety is actually not terrible for a Springfield. Activation is pretty positive, appropriately sprung. The paddle shape is okay. To be honest, it's not my favorite, though it does have a nice beveling at the back to eliminate hot spot. Thinner on the support hand side than it is on primary. There is slight movement on the paddle itself at the bottom. Honestly, better than a lot of other Springfields that I've owned. This is actually pretty comparable to what I found with the Cabot Insurrection. So, again, it's acceptable. Ultimately, on this example, it's going to wind up getting replaced. Moving back to the grip safety. Look, it's not good. We got big gaps, no blending, sharp edges. Let's see here. Activation point. It's right at the bottom. Yeah, it's not great. The mag catch, also not great. It feels very gritty. There's multiple clicks in the action. I do like that it's serrated. But yeah, kind of gross. As to the trigger, a short take up. Feels like about a 4.5 pound break. The shoe is fit pretty decently. Not a whole lot of movement in it. Not my favorite shoe design. The feel, it's pretty underwhelming if I'm honest. Not a great trigger. The grip module is actually something that I think Springfield did a very good job with. So I do hate that there's no texture in this portion. There's also a big molding line. I don't know if you can see it, but that's present right down the middle. But I like their texture. It has kind of a shark skin feel. Decent for carry, but also provides good traction at the range. And ergonomically, it's more rounded up front, and in my opinion feels better in hand than, well, especially the first gen STI grips, but also the current texture staccato grips. I also think the front undercut is well done, and it's nice and high up front here. So this is actually my second favorite polymer grip module, only behind the piece from MJD. The trigger parts on the Prodigy aren't the best. There's also not a Marvel disconnector cut present, and the Prodigy has some of the worst disconnector hang-up I've ever felt. So just racking the slide right there. Oh, that's just disgusting. Not great. Obviously, those parts are going to get replaced. This one's going to get a Marvel disconnector cut. We'll fix that, but yeah. Tabletop, if I'm being completely honest, the gun does not impress. All right, a couple key points with the Prodigy I forgot to point out. Firstly, the slide to frame fit is getting to be a little loose. We have movement front and back, maybe even a little bit of up and down. I find this to occur quite a bit with Prodigies. So in the store, when they're new, you feel them and they're nice and tight. Then after you shoot them, about 1,000 rounds through them, they loosen up. And what it seems to be caused by is the Cerakote coating wears on the rails and they open up. And so, again, you get a little bit of a audible shake with this gun. One of the good things that the Prodigy does is unique to it and Chambers 2019's is the slide stop hole location is in the same location as a traditional 1911, not the slightly different location that a STI 2011 position is that almost everyone else uses. That is preferable for barrel lockup, and you'll find all other things being equal, a double stack using that hole location will shoot a little bit softer than one that uses the 2011 position, which is another reason why I consider the Prodigy to actually be a particularly good base gun. But does it shoot? Fortunately, in my experience, that's where I found Prodigies tend to redeem themselves. Across the board, they tend to be fairly soft shooters with a very satisfying recoil impulse. While testing this particular one, the biggest performance hang-up was the tiny little hollow sun. The gun performed well on my 5x50 drill, and there was definitely time left on the table running a plate rack with it. I've talked to several shooters who have a hard time going up the 2011 ranks because they find they actually preferred how their prodigies shoot, even compared to some of the bigger names. And despite its little tabletop hang-ups, it's undeniable that it is a nice shooting platform. Now smooth up the little hang-ups, and it's a very nice shooting platform. Alright, final thoughts on this one. Out of the box, in my opinion, the stock Prodigy is pretty meh. I would be curious to test it against something like the Mac 9 DS or even the TSOS offerings, but I do still think it's a good base gun. Now, the common question is going to be, how does it stack up against Staccato P, and is a Staccato P worth twice as much as this gun? Yes, it is. Out of the box, I think a Staccato P is twice the gun this is. I know that's going to rub some people the wrong way, but if we look at what we're actually getting, I can justify that statement. So, yes, you can buy a Prodigy. The new models now will probably run just fine out of the box. With that, you're still getting MIM parts, you're still getting a Cerakote finish, you're getting fairly loose slide to frame fit, you're just getting a very replaceable gun. And what it comes down to is, how do you intend to use the gun? If this is just going to be a range gun or a base for a project, this is an excellent option. But if this is a duty option, defense option, a gun that you have absolutely zero intent of modifying, get the Staccato. It's going to be right out of the box. The little things have already been addressed. The part selection is excellent. If you are into mild modifications, you can get a pretty good trigger job using just the factory parts. Save yourself the time, effort, and headache, and just get the Staccato P. That said, if you're doing like I'm doing with this one and using it as a base for a build, the Prodigy makes more sense. When I'm done with this gun, about the only Springfield parts that are going to be left are going to be the slide and the frame. Being that I'm replacing all those parts, it would then not make sense to use a Staccato P where I'm paying more to just replace all the same parts. So that's where I sit with Springfield Prodigy. Now, if you're interested to see what comes of it, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully here in a couple months, we'll have a freshened up Prodigy for us to deep dive into. Thank you.